Quack. Quack, quack. Quack. Quack, quack.
Oh, yeah, quack.
12 and... Oh! I am your host, Adam Chimeo of the Pac-12 podcast.
And I'm Aaron Schroeder. Hey, buddy.
That is right. Aaron Schroeder back on the Pac-12 after probably the first week ever of him not being here. Because he was in Texas. He was in the stomping grounds of Texas. How are you doing down there? Down in Austin?
Doing great. If you want to hear all about my trips and travels, I would suggest you, dear listener, go check out our Patreon page.
That's right. The
you can find the link to that Patreon on our website at Pac-12podcast.com. And for $5 a month, you can hear about every single thing I did in Austin, as well as see a picture of the world's most famous drum set. All right.
Imagine how annoying that would be if you were at work and they're like, yeah, I went on vacation. And I was like, oh, that's cool. How was it? They were like, for $5, I'll describe to you that vacation. But that's what we're offering you.
Viso drink I had while I was there.
Aaron, while you were gone, not only did the Oregon-Stanford game happen, but the Oregon-Wazoo game happened. Now, I wanted to get your take before we bring in our very special third host, side piece, special guest, whatever you want to call him,
our
film
side
reviewer.
Piece.
Side piece. He's a side piece. Aaron, what'd you think of that Oregon-Wazoo game? Because it was a bit thrilling.
That was the one where we won very well, right? Or we pulled it out in the end?
In the end, with the Mace Funa interception, pick six, baby. Oh, my God. Rallying back.
And I watched the other game yesterday. Okay, so I have been keeping up. I've just been behind schedule watching the games. That one, I kept hearing in my head, the ghost of all ghosts, Hithladay the most, saying... I could just hear him in my head going, it was inevitable that we would win because statistically speaking, our drives are better. We're just not finishing them. So that's maybe an issue.
Wasn't that nuts? Well, for a while, that first half.
That was also, so both of these games I like to call penalty games. That game specifically because we had to really dive deep into the great book of penalties to understand the the natures of the rules that govern football in a physics type setting. It was insane. So yeah, that game was awesome to watch because holy shit, Washington State looks like they're good.
I think Washington State is actually pretty good, surprisingly. So Cam Ward, that QB.
Yeah, watching both teams really be strong out there made for great football.
Well, and
I'll say thoughts on the Washington State game.
One thing I liked quite a bit, because I agree with you. I mean, everyone was talking about it. That first half, we were getting to the red zone and then just settling for a Camden Lewis field goal.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, well, what's the situation here? Because it doesn't seem to be Bo Nix. It wasn't like he was.
Well, we had that Bo Nix pick six.
You know what? Here's the thing. Sorry, I have to catch everybody up. I've been gone for 2 weeks. That wasn't an us problem per se, as it was a Wazoo being really good at red zone defense and just handing it to us as a unit with their unit.
I think we got a little too creative with their unit. True. We got a little too creative when we got to the red zone in that first half. Yeah. Especially with how much push Bucky Irving and Noah Whittington were getting just up the middle. It felt
you're
like
saying
that
it was a situation of hubris.
A little bit. Well, also it's like when Bo Nix tried to just push it in from the 1 yard line or whatever, and they just blew that up. Well, he had done it in many other games,
right?
But Wazoo did their film study. They listened to Hithladay, and they knew it's okay, when they're in this situation, they like to do this, and they're I think their biggest strength is their defense, how quick their defense is, how quick their defense can get through the lines and can just cause havoc, And I think they really did that. And then the pick six, it was kind of nice, whereas like the pick six felt brutal, obviously. We were about to make it like a one-score game, and then he throws that pick six.
I didn't even realize until the announcer. Well, that was the same game. That's right. That was the Washington State game.
But
the announcers made me realize, oh no, Nix works really great with picks and six.
Oh yeah.
Fuck.
No. Bo picks is a lot of people.
Bo Nix pick six. Like
that was an unfortunate decision.
This
but
is
then
a chance that could become a thing.
Oh yeah. But he rallied back afterwards. Like he had such a good game afterwards. That it's only a plus. I felt really good about that. And so I don't know. In the end, it was a good Bo Nix game. Had a couple great Troy Franklin passes. The game winner was a Troy Franklin touchdown, or maybe the game winner, I should say, was the Mace Funa pick six, which was very cool to see. And I don't know. So that was the Wazoo game. It was nice that we came back.
That's how we iced it. That's right. Because I was saying, are we icing out this game with a fucking pick six? Hell yeah.
Ooh, it was good. And yeah. I don't know. Pullman is a tough place, dude. That's a really tough place to play.
Dude, it seemed like everybody showed up. Fans included. Like it was a real, they were there to okay, well, this was a part of the discussion, and I'd like to hear input now. Should they be ranked? Do you think that they are a rankable team?
I think so. They just beat Cal as well, pretty handedly. I do think they should be ranked. They beat Wisconsin. Wisconsin ain't good. They actually just fired their head coach after many a year. But I think this Wazoo team is not one that's going to win the conference, but I think they're going to beat like one or two of the teams in the Pac-12 championship game this season. Like, I do think they can upset the top tier of this conference. And
that's good, though. That's what we want, right?
Yeah. Oh, especially now that we've beaten them. I want them to beat everybody. I want them to.
Right.
Why not?
Well, the other thing, too, is we need to have our top 6 teams, like, dialed in to where they're all shooting for number 1, like, legitimately.
Yeah.
Because in 2 years, whenever 2 of the teams leave, and we've got to figure out how we want to sell this package to somebody, we need to have a very strong package deal ready to go, or I think we're just going to see dissemination.
You're getting it, dude. Let me look through we don't do this enough, I guess. It's kind of boring, but AP poll top 25. I just want you to know every Pac-12 team in there. Well, first of all, actually, so Georgia is number 2. We want them to just keep winning because they kick the crap out of us.
Right.
They've looked more and more mortal, unfortunately, since our game.
That's what I've heard.
But they're 2-0. Not 2-0. They're second in the nation, 5-0. They're still a great team. Like, it's still a quality loss. After that, we got number 6 USC. I think that's a little fraudulent, but whatever. They're undefeated. Number 6 USC. We got number 11 Utah, 4-1. Right behind Utah is us, number 12 Ducks. Right, number 12. That's pretty freaking good after a big loss. We're 4-1. Then you got BYU, a team that we've beaten. They're ranked number 16.
Time out, though.
Mm-hmm.
If the only team that's beaten us is the number 2 team, then I feel like that should only make us be higher, because out of the teams above us, that's the only one who did it. So we should be like at 4 or 5.
I don't know. Well, 4 or 5 you're talking about teams that are actually undefeated right now. Like right now, for a while, it lays out where it's just like, okay, the undefeated teams that are in Power 5 programs, we're going to put them at the top, and then we'll have. Well, yeah, maybe. I don't think so. I think they're giving us credit for losing to Georgia, and that's why we're at 12. if we lost to an unranked team, we wouldn't even be ranked, even with only one loss. Yeah. So BYU was number 16. UCLA skyrocketed to number 18 because they just got a big upset over number 21, UW. Now, right outside, it says others receiving votes out of the top 25. They let you know, like, here's the runner-ups, basically, super close.
Gotcha.
Is number 1 in that runner-ups list, others receiving votes, is Washington State. So they're just there. They should be ranked by now, honestly. They should have been ranked when we took them on.
It's kind of an exciting time in the Pac-12 universe, if you will.
I think so. I mean,
we had, look, let's just be honest about it. Last year I hated Arizona, so we technically had 2 teams that were just giant piles of garbage.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I like Arizona, both of those teams are looking better as well. So, like, the whole of
Arizona State is not,
as far as I can tell, our only thing anchoring us to the sea bottom would be UCLA. Once we get rid of those people and we don't have that trash fire situation happening.
Well, UCLA is leaving on their own accord, so don't worry about that. So is USC.
Those Texas Trojans, they can go where they want. They're nomads,
They can go to hell. So we recapped. You're wearing kind of Wazoo colors there too. Actually, you're actually kind of Stanford Cardinal.
I was like, "Whoops! Oh well."
Mm-hmm. Well,
represent the state, I guess. I'm here.
Yes, whatever. Our lawyer, Kyle, is apparently a Wazoo fan too because he's living over in Eastern Washington, and he was texting me, talking to me that whole game, and it felt so good that Mace Funa pick 6.
No, if anyone deserves to like. The beautiful part about dealing with that guy is that you have to deal with the world's loudest mouth, and then you just wait, and then you get one beautiful bomb, and you be boom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then he accepts it very gracefully.
Like all lawyers, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the game, blah, blah, blah. This game, much more boring, am I right? Oregon versus Stanford.
I fast-forwarded the 4th quarter.
That's fair. Out of everything.
2 times speed.
I don't blame you. I watched every single minute of it because I forced myself to do that. Luckily, It wasn't. Usually, it's like there's some great games going on, and I got to watch some Oregon blowout.
Mm-hmm.
But it was so late. I mean, it ended at freaking 11:30 p.m. Pacific time.
That's what I was also realizing as everyone in the crowd was looking half asleep because I'm watching it on my DVR. So I'm like, oh, shit. Right, this game is happening late.
It was packed, though. You got to shout out to the student section. They hung out the entire time till 11:30 on a Saturday night. Hell yeah, that felt really good. Let's talk about this Oregon-Stanford game. To do that, I think we should bring on an old friend. What do you think, Aaron?
Absolutely. I haven't talked to this man in forever. I'm excited to reconnect.
Freaking ever. That is right. Let us bring on the one, the only, the film reviewer and managing editor over at Addicted to Quack.
Sounds good.
That is right. Hithliday. Hey, Hithliday. Welcome to the Quack-12 podcast once again.
Thanks. I'm glad to be back. Aaron, it's great to be with you again. It's been a minute.
I know. Our love affair can now continue, and I'm excited.
Yeah, because I consider this a throuple situation, but this is the throuple situation where both of you are more familiar with me, and I'm trying to keep you two separated because I don't want a divorce.
So you don't want to be cut out.
Yeah. We all know thruples, they're always going to end with just two. I'm trying to make that cut. Anyways, no need to badmouth thruples on the Quack-12. We here on the Quack-12 podcast support all thruple situations. Live your lives. Hithliday, Oregon versus Stanford, we were just saying, kind of a boring game because it went on late because Stanford had that slow mesh. Maybe it's still cooking because it's not looking like it did anything against us. And the penalties really took out a lot of the joy from the Duck side. What's your main takeaway from this Stanford game?
Well, you got a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, what else is there, right?
I watched the entire game, of course, live. But in terms of doing film review, I only watched the first half because it was garbage time. When Oregon snuck in that last touchdown right before, the final whistle for halftime. And yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll watch that second half film sometime later. I'll do some probably, Oregon's accumulating a bunch of garbage time tape, which is good. That's a good situation to be in. And I'll go through that garbage time tape later. But like, as for right now, it wasn't boring doing the review. I got it all done on Sunday. I had Monday to like run errands. It was great. The penalties were annoying, sort of like robbed Oregon of a lot of momentum. I think a couple of them were. I wasn't real wild about the calls from the officials.
The one that made me laugh the hardest was the big, like a bench brawl. Like both teams are on there, and then they're like, "You, Seven McGee, you're out of here."
I actually found that one. I was curious about it. Not like, it's irrelevant for film study purposes, but I was so curious about it that I actually, found it. And like, he actually, I don't know about ejection for fighting. But like an unsportsmanlike would have been justified. He whacks a guy in the helmet, like, and it kind of unprovoked. They're just like sort of John in that whole scrum, and he whacks a dude. And then the thing that's confusing about it is that a ref sees him and he's like, I'm wagging my finger at you. And then he sort of like a coach kind of grabs Seven and drags him away, and the ref has to go like chase after him. And so that's why the flag, comes through so late. But like, if you watch it, it's just like, no, Seven, you can't do that.
I assumed there had to be something in front of a ref, but it was just so funny because then they did the review and it was like, I don't even see him out there.
Exactly. Well, it was this whole like mess of bodies, but like he was the ball carrier on that play, so like it was easy to like track him the entire way to like find him in the crowd, and then I was like, you can't do that. But like, it was funny because that play knocked Oregon back to 3rd and 21. And then Stanford backs out to play the pass, because why wouldn't they? It's 3rd and 21. But Oregon had such a dominant rushing performance in this game. They hand the ball to Sean Dollars, and he runs for 20 yards.
Right.
And, which like that clip made my article because it was the closest thing to a rushing failure I could find on the tape, because like he failed to convert a 3rd and long, like he didn't get a first down out of it. So it's technically a failure, even though he got 20 yards on it. But then, gets them to the 1 yard line, which I'm sure they would have gone for it on 4th down. Like when you're, 4th and 1 on the goal line, you're going to go for it sort of regardless. But like one of the nice things about having a super dominant rushing performance, which this definitely was, I mean, this was like bonkers how effective they were. 80% effective in the first half. Like they succeeded on 16 rushing plays. They failed on 4 of them. And again, one of those 4 failures was Dollars running for 20 yards on 3rd and 21.
Wow.
The adjusted yards per carry average was 11.9, meaning they got a first down every time they ran the ball. 45% of their runs gained 10 plus yards, which is like, I've never seen that number. Is crazy. So anyway, like that was part of one of the points I made in my article, is that like when you can run the ball that effectively, all 3rd downs or 2 down situations, just like run, are you in 3rd down, run it. And if you have to on 4th down, run it again, what are they going to do? Stop you?
Especially as your lead grows, it just becomes
But
more,
then, back to the refs, like Oregon didn't need to make a decision about whether to run, or call a play on 4th down, because one of Stanford's safeties actually transferred from Oklahoma. So I had to do a bunch of film study on that guy, and I liked him. But like he's trying to get over to catch Sean Dollars, and the umpire runs into him and then runs into him again. And so after the play, that safety is like turns and starts screaming and jumping up and down at the umpire. It's like literally jumping up and down like a cartoon, like Donald Duck in a cartoon, like that's what he looks like. And so the ump flags him for unsportsmanlike, which I was sort of like, dude, I'm kind of on your side, because the ump did definitely get in your way.
Yeah,
so anyway,
that
was another one where like the refs were like very flag happy in this game, where like the ump could have let that one go and he just decided not to. And so for anybody who thinks it was all one-sided, it wasn't entirely one-sided. It was more like the refs were just like really eager to throw flags in this game.
eager to see horse collars that I guess were there.
and then like the one where Chris Hudson is trying to get the ball to the ref.
Yeah.
You know, like after I think it was a kick return, he's trying to get the ball to the ref, and he's like, you know, and he's like, oh, should I toss it this way or that way? And then he's underhanding it to the ref, and just a Stanford player walks into the way of the ball. Like I'm 100% certain he did not mean to throw the ball at the Stanford player. Just didn't see him while he was trying to pitch it to her. And the ref's like, how dare you? Unsportsmanlike. And it was a good return, but that penalty like knocked him back. So it's just like, yeah, stuff like that where it's like the rest were like really eager to throw flags in this game on some subjective stuff that they didn't have to. I mean, there's other things where they screwed up, like they threw in an ineligible downfield, you know, penalty where it's like, yeah, he really was, you know, that ball was caught beyond the line of scrimmage and the lineman was like 6 yards downfield, and so yes, you know, that's a correct flag, and it's frustrating because it like called back a good play for Oregon, but like, you know, yeah. But yeah, like it definitely sort of like interrupted momentum. Certainly, there was like, you know, for example, like Oregon only got a field goal in their first possession, right? And so after like the Wazoo game last week, when they were like stalling out in the red zone so much, I could just sense, and not like I went and looked on social media or anything, because like, Jesus Christ, why would I? But I could just sense like Oregon fans across Twitter crying out, "Oh no, the red zone issues all over again." And like, I really didn't really think that was the case. You know, it really wound up, they only snapped like 3 times and in the red zone, and like, I didn't think they were inappropriate play calls, and more to the point, there were 2 false starts and an offsides that were sort of like interrupting their moment. It was like their momentum just kept being interrupted in that, where I was just like, I don't really think this is a big deal. And then literally every subsequent red zone possession that they had, they got a touchdown on, even during garbage time. So it's just like, okay, that's a non-starter in terms of a storyline, in my opinion.
It felt like once you started seeing Oregon's defense against Stanford's offense, and started realizing that once you kind of saw that, it's like, I don't think they're going to be answering scores over and over again. It felt. I
mean, it's weird because I think that Stanford, like Petros Papadakis was on the call for this game, and he's often sort of, I kind of like, he has a sort of bonhomie, which I enjoy, but like I often find him painful to listen to because like he's not. He like half gets the analysis correct. So like what he kept saying throughout this game is that Stanford lacks an identity, which is like, I think I know what he means, but like, that's not a very clear way to put it. I guess the way that I would put it is that like Stanford has adopted this slow mesh RPO offense, which is not a great fit for their personnel. Like it's like running a triple option where you don't have a running quarterback. You know, number one, that's a problem. And like number 2 is that like the way that their receivers are really good and really undefendable, like is the RPO routes on this offense are not like that. It doesn't let them take advantage of that. Like there's a version of this Stanford personnel which is undefendable and really scared the pants off of me. But like, it's not, this offensive structure doesn't put him in those positions. And so I'm like, well, okay. And then on top of that, Dan Lanning, or whoever it is, I assume it could be anybody, but basically like cracked their RPO keys on the slow mesh. So like he figured out which specific guy is being read, which I had a hard time with in film study. I got 2 games of it, you know, the Stanford game and the USC, or the Stanford USC game and the Stanford Washington game. And I couldn't quite figure it out. And like, I was running it through the computer and stuff like, and I couldn't figure out exactly, you know, I was just like, back all of them out, back out all the safeties, back up all the linebacker, because sorry, I missed a step. Strategically, what you want to do to that offense is always force the run. You don't want Stanford to be able to pass out of it. So the way you do that is that you back your dudes out and you only rush, 4 at them and get them to hand off, and then, try to stop the run with only 4 guys. Which like Oregon's already set up fairly well to do. The mint front sort of by design, the mint front is good at doing that. But I couldn't figure out which guy exactly was getting read. Lanning, or whoever, maybe it was Lepoy, maybe it was Pavlich, I don't know, somebody on the Oregon coaching staff figured out exactly which dude was being read. And so only that guy had to back out, and everybody else got to rush the box, meaning that like they could force Stanford, and in fact did so at least twice during the first half. It would be 3rd and long. they knew which dude was being read. They backed that guy out to force the run, but everybody else got to play the run. And so Stanford, with their crappy offensive line, is now trying to block 6 or 7 Oregon defenders. It's like he hacked their passwords. It's like he's like, he put a virus in their system. I mean, it was just like, yeah, that guy's he should be, but he's a better football mind than I am. Like, I couldn't figure it out, and he did. So
Can I ask a question based off that?
Go ahead.
I don't know how in the weeds this is going to get, because I barely understand how to ask it. But something that you mentioned there was that they learned how to read us, and something that happened before
we
jumped on.
Learned how to read them. Yeah.
Or
the way it's like counter reading, it's like counterintelligence.
Right, exactly.
So their offense wants to read us, and then
so then we counter.
Stanford's offense wants to read Oregon's defense. Oregon's defense figured out how they were being read and said, "Okay, I'll get you to read this one guy, but then everybody else is going to attack you."
Right.
Yeah.
So then, but before you jumped on, me and Adam were talking about the Washington State game. And how it seemed like their defense was able to maybe know what we were trying to do to make touchdowns. Therefore, the question is, are we a team that is an easy read, and so we are coming up with options to kind of show our hand, but it's a bullshit hand that we're showing so we can manipulate? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I understand what you're asking, and the answer is the answer is sometimes yes, they do that.
Okay, because it seems like it's benefiting us that the other teams are apparently easily able to tell what we want to do if they pay attention to us.
Well, I would say there are 4 different things that are happening. One of them is that Oregon lines up. They look like they're going to run, play A, and then they run play A, and they're just sort of, bigfooting you there. They're just like, I know that you know that I know that you know what we're going to run, but we're going to run it anyway because you can't stop us because we have better talent than you do. So like,
because we all know the same things, which is that we can do this.
Yeah. So like against BYU, they were lining up an I formation, and then they were running out of the I formation, and BYU was like, oh God, we're getting run over by big giant ducks. Number 2 is the misdirection that you were talking about. The like, oh, we're going to line up this way and you think we're going to do this, but then actually we did that. So like one example of that is that Oregon against Stanford lined up in the I formation on the goal line, which was particularly ironic because like that was Stanford's thing for a long time, but they can't do it anymore, which is why they switched to this offense. So like doing it against Stanford, I was like, ooh, this is poetry. But then rather than running the ball, which like Stanford was expecting to see, Nix runs out of the pocket and it's going to be a pass, but then he sees it's open for him to run. So he just scrambles into the end zone, gets a touchdown out of that. So that's an example of what you're talking about. It's like, I've set you up to think this, but then really I did that. There are category 3. This one was happening against Wazoo in the red zone in the first half, where we telegraph that we're going to run this certain kind of play. You know that we're going to run this certain kind of play, but then, damn it, Kenny Dillingham, like Wazoo's just better at defending that play. Like you can't Bigfoot them at that particular type of play. They're just faster off the line than you are. And so like that, therefore I would categorize those as dumb play calls by Dillingham, cause like you can't, that's
know their forte.
Yeah, it's like they know what you're going to do, and that's not something where you have an advantage. So why did you do it? And then the 4th category would be like, none of this is relevant. They just run a standard football play, which the defense is like, I think maybe it'll be this, but maybe it'll be that. I don't know. And then they beat them. Like, so like none of the above would be category, the 4th category.
So it doesn't seem like our playbook is one in which, it's going to be easy for teams to figure out as the season goes on, to where our wins slowly decrease in chances.
I don't think that is the case. I actually every week I've seen Oregon add plays to their playbook where they're putting stuff on tape for future opponents to look at. and be like, oh God, we got to deal with this now. And we got to deal with this now. We got to do this, Oregon, like against BYU, put in an entire series where they were running out of the pistol formation. They haven't done that yet since or before, but it was just like, oh, we're going to run 14 plays out of the pistol, and they're all going to be runs, and we're going to succeed. I think they succeeded on 10 out of the 14 of them against BYU. And it's like, what do opponents do with that tape? Like, so somewhere down the line, Oregon's going to get in the pistol formation. They're going to be like, oh God, they did it against BYU. Okay, what do we do here? And then like they ran, 14 out of 14 times. It's going to be a pass, they're going to mess with them in that way, I actually really appreciate the stuff that Dillingham, even though I just, criticized Dillingham for his first half red zone play calling against Wazoo. Overall, I've been really impressed with him, sticking in lots of interesting weird stuff, growing the playbook every week. Against Stanford, right before the first half, I put out a tweet about this. They run 2 sequenced plays where it's exactly the same play. It's a GT counter with a tunnel screen behind it. And the first time they run the ball, they get like 10 yards, and the safety is like, he starts to back out, but then he sees it's a run. So he runs real fast, as fast as he can, to get the tackle. But it's still, it's too late. He's given up like 9 yards on the run. So then second play, which Oregon snaps right before the quarter expires, right? They don't call a timeout. It's like 10 seconds in between plays. They really hurried up. They run the exact same play. They line up in the same formation. The initial blocks are the same GT counter pull, the wrong way. And that same safety is like, oh, you're not going to beat me twice. And so he comes screaming down as fast as he possibly can. And it's a tunnel screen. And Chase Cota runs 42 yards for a touchdown because there's no safety there to stop him because Oregon, trick-rated him. Which we're
Pavlovian as fuck.
Yes, precisely, Aaron.
It's definitely the whole when you're fighting someone and you start snapping in the corner there, and then boom, and then the next time you do it, you hit them with the snapping finger. That's how you get them. Hythloday. So when I'm watching Bucky and then Noah and then every other great running back we got out there, just against Wazoo, against everybody really, even against Georgia, we were having some success.
Oh, yeah.
It really, not to underthink it here, but it starts to think can we just barrel through everybody on our schedule? And I just wanted to ask you, who have you seen in the Pac-12 that you think would be able to stop Oregon if they're I want to run this ball. Can you get me to stop running this ball?
Well, I have not yet done a film study on Utah or Washington. It just hasn't come up yet. And those are pretty late game, or Oregon State. Basically, Oregon's last 3 games, which are Washington, Utah, and Oregon State, which are, looking at this point like the big games, although UCLA after the bye might be, looking like a challenge too. I haven't done it, just the way that the schedule has worked out. I haven't watched any film on those guys yet, so maybe them, but I've watched the rest of Oregon's opponents. It ain't Arizona. I really don't think it's UCLA. It ain't Cal. It ain't Colorado. And that's it. That's it until they get to the last 3. So you could definitely the next 4 games see something similar to what you've seen in the first the first 3 conference games plus BYU, which is, and I guess Eastern Washington too, which is just we're going to run at 60, 70, 80% efficiency. And you can't stop us. And these guys have Stanford's rush defense is terrible. They ranked, I think 125. Well, I actually put the stat in my article here. I can just look at it.
That article is over at Addicted to Quack. It is a Duck Dive, the weekly article that Hythloday puts out, really breaking down the film of the previous opponent and next week's opponent.
Yeah, so I pulled this up. Stanford is ranked number 124 in the country in rush yards allowed per game. Their rush defense is ranked 124 out of 131. Wow. There are exactly 2 Power 5 teams that are ranked worse than Stanford is in rush yards allowed per game. And
UConn? Are they there?
They're not a Power 5 team.
No, not Power 5.
They're both in the Pac-12. It's Arizona and Colorado.
Oh, man. That is rough. Poor Colorado.
Oregon rushed at 80% efficiency against Stanford, and Stanford's not even the worst or the second worst rush defense that they have left on their schedule. So yes, for at least a couple of games, I definitely think, I mean, like I've been saying this truly, we've been talking for a couple of years now. I'm sure I've said, repeatedly over the years, like there's this old football truism that if you can run the ball on offense, that the rest of the game is irrelevant. It doesn't even matter if you're doing, not doesn't matter, but like it makes it so that the opponent's window for victory is extraordinarily narrow, and they have to play perfectly, and they have to get some lucky bounces in order to beat you. If your rush efficiency is over a certain rate, it's because like rushing the ball is so versatile, right? Like, what do you want to do on first down? I know, run the ball. Oh, is it third and long? Well, run the ball twice. Is your pass offense sputtering? Well, run the ball. Does the opponent have a scary passing attack and you want to take the air out of the game? Run the ball. Does the opponent have a good rushing attack and you want to keep, but like it'll take them a long time to score, and so therefore running out the clock is a good idea? You should run the ball. There's like running the ball, like it answers every problem that you have in football.
It's as if it was the first thing you could do with the ball in the beginning of the game.
Yeah, it's like the most, and so like, it's the, even though we're in an era of like high flying offenses and like the most exciting ones and the ones that win national championships. Oh, if you want to win a national championship, you have to be good at everything. There's no such thing as like an incomplete team that wins a national championship. But I'm just saying that like it's like the first question. It's like getting past fool's mate in chess. Like you just it's the first question. Like if you can run the ball effectively against your opponent, then like, oh, that's it. Game's over. I don't really need to look at the rest of this. And Oregon was running at 80% against everyone. This is bonkers.
Insane.
It is what made this game honestly feel kind of like a spring game, where it was just like, you were really just focusing on the penalties more than anything else, because it just fell out of hand really quickly. Which the nice part about that, as we said, is you get that backup, you get the backups in, you get some real rotation there. That's how teams become good. Which leads us, of course, to, I wanted to ask you, Hithliday, let's say the season ended right now. Bo Nix goes to the NFL, let's say, or CFL. That seems like a better fit, but. And Ty Thompson is our starting quarterback, and you're doing your duck dive for, hey, what can we expect from this duck team? What would you put in that article about Ty Thompson right now? I mean, I'm sure it would be, you're very good at not calling your shot too early, but would you be a bit concerned from what you've seen so far?
I mean, like I said, I have done zero serious film study on Ty Thompson's reps. And even if I had, it would be a pretty small sample size, because he's, he just hasn't been in that many, snaps. And on top of that, a lot of them, because it was garbage time, he's handing the ball off, which like, so it's not only just a small number of total reps, it's an even smaller number of passing reps. I think some of the stuff, just watching casually, I think going wrong are not exactly his fault. So like, I'm just not in a position to say like yank the guy, or this guy's a bust. I would like to see, some reps go to Jay Butterfield. Like I'd like to be able to see what he can do. I mean, that's just purely selfish as a film reviewer, not a Ducks fan. Just like I want tape on that guy too. I want tape on everybody.
Yeah. It's odd that he's seen almost none. He got like a set of 4 downs in one game, right?
I'm not even sure that he's been in.
I remember. I kind of.
Well, I know he played in the ball. Game.
Yeah, maybe
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I've got one. It's not about our future team, but about our current team. We're dominant on the run. Apparently, that's going to be the story for the rest of the season. Okay. The good Lord willing, and the sun does shine. What about this deep ball that we keep playing around with that sometimes connects for the world's longest touchdown throws, it feels like? Is this something that might become of concern in other teams? Like, what is their secondary defense like, etc.?
Yeah, I thought Basically Oregon really only in the first half anyway, they really only attempted 2 deep shots. Basically they just weren't in a position where they needed to, and it's like it's intrinsically a riskier thing than running the ball, short passes, screen passes, and so forth. And so if you're dominating your opponent, it's just like there's no real point in taking deep shots.
Yeah.
But occasionally, you do just sort of keep the defense honest or whatever. And like, one of them, Chris Hudson has broken open, against the defense, and Nick's just, he overthrows the ball a little bit. It happens. I don't really think it means a whole lot. The second one I was really worried about because he just shouldn't have thrown that ball.
The double coverage.
Yeah, it was just like,
yeah.
What are you doing? But like, I really didn't like. That was a dumb decision, and he was lucky he didn't get picked off. Oh, I'm sorry. There is actually a third time, and I put this one in my article too, where it's Stanford just has the coverage right. Like Oregon thinks the coverage is going to be one way, and then Stanford just like. They flip a coin and they got heads on that one. And so Nix essentially throws the ball. It's a throw to Coda on the sideline where even though it's an incomplete pass, I actually gave Nix a good grade on that play because it's like, it's placed so that either Coda makes a toe tap sideline touchdown grab the way that Franklin later actually pulled off.
Yeah. Holy hell.
It's a throwaway that happened on second down. They live to, and they go on to score a touchdown on that drive. So, whatever. So like, that was also sort of a deeper shot that wasn't completed, but I didn't think it was a stupid throw. I actually, of the three of them, it was the one that I graded Nick's the best for.
But it's also something we keep doing in each game. Like I feel like every game has at least 3 where we're like, turn on the burners, this one's going a long way.
Well, I mean, you should just to put on tape, just to keep your defense, the opponent honest. It's just like, hey, remember this dude's got an arm, you can't put 3 safeties in the box or anything like that.
By the way, he can run super great too.
Yeah,
like this last game really showed him off, I think. As like,
I heard a quote where it was like, halfway through that 80-yard touchdown run, I forget which, but one of our receivers, because he was about to like, okay, I'm just gonna go down, like, you got to look after yourself here. But one of the receivers like, no, keep going, you can make it. Kind of convinced him midway to get going. I actually also read a quote about some of our offensive linemen were accusing Stanford of kind of like simulating like our cadence, which apparently screwed them up, to which they said they brought it up to the refs and they said from then it was less of a problem. That was said anyway.
Our cadence.
Yeah, kind of like trying to get us to jump. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Which is actually like illegal. There's a rule called disconcerting signals. That's something that's really hard to pick up on film study, and so I couldn't really tell you unless somebody could send me like the timestamp of when supposedly that conversation occurred. I don't know. I might go back and look and see if I can differentiate when Stanford's getting off the ball or whatever.
And there were maybe 10 penalties in the first half. Yeah. Like all in the first half were 10. Like,
and I think it was like 10 penalties in the first half and like 4 penpenalties in the second half.
Exactly.
It was it definitely cleaned up. I don't know, man. It could be, that kind of sound like an old wives' tale, frankly. But who knows? You're supposed to be able to overcome, whatever the opponent throws at you. So like,
and they did.
And you're supposed to blow out your opponents badly enough so that it doesn't matter if the officials really want to interject themselves in the game. Just don't give them the opportunity to determine the outcome of the game, which was the case here. So yeah. I did, back to your point about Nick's, showing off with his legs. That 80-yard touchdown run happened in the second half, so I didn't get to put it in my article because it was garbage time, technically. But like, he does have a scramble during the first half that looked really good, so I included that one. It's a really good. In fact, he does this pump fake. He starts to scramble. He's approaching the line of scrimmage. You can't throw once you cross the line of scrimmage, of course, but like before it, you can buy yourself some space and try to get the defense to back out by pump faking the ball. And like, he really whips his arm around. I was really worried the ball was going to pop out, but apparently his hand strength is good enough that, nope, no concerns there. So that was a nice scramble. And it was on a similar type of play as the garbage time one. Like the way, like it's not, oh God, the pocket is breaking down, I got to get out of here. It's just like he can see that the way that the defense is backing out, that just sort of creates green grass. He's like, why bother throwing it? I can just run, like, hey, if you can run the ball. Those plays count as pass plays in my tally sheets. Use will be able to separate them. And then also here's another fun thing that I found in film study is that Oregon, one of the plays that Kenny Dillingham introduced in this game, I don't think he'd put it on film before, is the running back starts way split out, is like almost on the sideline as a receiver, and then he starts running in a pre-snap like it's going to be a sweep play. But then he stops up right before they take the snap, and then they actually are conducting an outside zone read of an unblocked defender. And the first 2 or 3 times they hand off the ball, and it's really, the tight ends do a really good job every time of blocking it. And like both Whittington and Irving get some good runs to the outside on that. But then the 4th time they run it, the end clears out to go chase the back, and guess what happens? Nix keeps the ball, which is the correct read, and he runs for 35 yards, on a designed run play, because that's what he's supposed to do. So like, that's another, rope-a-dope, the defense, kind of thing. Yeah. And then they also add another 15 yards on that one, because there was a hands to the face back on the offensive line. It was irrelevant, didn't contribute to the play. It was just like, for anybody who looked at the box score and saw like, wait, I don't see a 35-yard run. That's the reason why, because some box scores will count that as a 50-yard run, which is stupid. It should be counted as a 35-yard run plus a 15-yard penalty. Anyway, no, sorry. Those
are these technical plays, the way they're thought out with that, like repeated, like give you a response and then remove said response and give you, or whatever, the Pavlov vibe
stimulus. And
are these coming from deep Georgia playbooks that we just haven't seen, that because it's coming with the team?
What do you mean deep Georgia playbooks?
Like, are these plays coming to us from are Georgia doing the same kind of thing in their plays and their coaching style, or is that?
I mean, Todd Monken, Georgia's OC, I do think is pretty good at what you're talking about, which is like play sequencing. But no, I don't think Oregon took Georgia's playbook.
Right. But that concept.
This offense looks more like Mike Norvell's offense, which makes sense because it was who Dillingham, the offensive coordinator, was working under for most of his career. Although he's introduced several of his own wrinkles, like he's, the idea that Kenny Dillingham is just replicating Mike Norvell is not correct at all. He is definitely his own man, which is like, he's 31 years old. It's actually pretty impressive what he's doing. And but the general concept of what you're talking about, like play sequencing, like getting the opponent to think one thing is coming, or habituating them to one thing, and then you do something else. Like, that's advanced OC stuff. Like that's it's actually pretty uncommon to see it in an offensive coordinator that young. It's definitely impressive. Now it led to an interception in the game against Georgia. They were they repeatedly lined up in a certain formation, then all pre-snap altered the formation in a very particular way. They do it 3 times. All 3 times they run a screen out of it. And then the 4th time they run it, they do, the exact same setup. And what it's supposed to be doing is getting Georgia to be like, oh, it's going to be a screen again. And they're supposed to like come down on the screen. And then the tight end or Coda, I forget who it is supposed to run behind the defense. And then he gets a downfield pass that he's supposed to run for a touchdown on. But Georgia doesn't wind up taking the bait on that play. They play back again, which, like, good for them. That's good defensive discipline on Georgia's part. And Nix is supposed to recognize that and not throw it deep, and instead just throw the screen, for the 4th time. But he doesn't. He throws it deep anyway, which is like stupid play number 1 that Nix commits and results in an interception. It was really bad. So Nick's putting the ball in danger. I mean, I would definitely say of the things that can get Oregon in trouble, I was worried about the secondary. I'm much, in in the off season. Like there was 2 things that I listed. One is I think the secondary could really get him in trouble. That hasn't really been a problem. I've actually been pretty impressed with the secondary so far.
Yeah, Williams had a really fun game.
Yep.
Yeah, I liked watching him a lot.
And Gonzalez and Bridges is better in coverage than people give him credit for. Stevens is doing better than I feared. They're even getting Addison 13, is playing a lot of dime reps and doing well in them. Like Hill has been better in coverage than I was afraid of. So like, I think the secondary, it's still not perfect. It's still of all the areas on the team, I think the weakest one, but they haven't been as bad as I was worried about. The other area that can sink the Ducks is Bo Nix putting the ball in danger, which like that problem's not over. Like just Stanford wasn't able to convert that into an interception.
Yeah.
But like, that problem's not over, and it probably won't ever will be.
Yeah. I mean, like nearly not. I mean, we won the game against Wazoo in huge part because of Bo Nix. Yeah. But also that mistake nearly cost us the game.
Yeah. It's, what do you get? You can't, one of the people I was doing a podcast with, said like, you can't tame a stallion, like for everything that he's getting you, that's the cost, like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and then you have the facts of life, the quacks of life. I should say.
I thought there was going to be a rhyme there.
No, I was really anticipating the quacks of life.
Aaron, I got a question for you. So, end of the third quarter, every season for quite a while, anyways. Ducks, they play Shout, Otis Redding Shout. Everyone's dancing. The players are out there. They're dancing. They're having a good time. Except for this game. This game, Dan Lanning finally put his foot down. After some comments against BYU, I got him pulled up here, where he talked about Shout, he said, like, he was asked, like, oh, so what do you think about the tradition of dancing to Shout? He said, does anybody remember the next play after Shout, referring to the BYU game? We gave up a third down for first down. So I don't know. I've got to figure that out. And then he goes on to say, like, we got some really good dancers on this team. That's apparent. But I hope we can figure out a score margin or rule that you can dance on Shout based on what the score is. So
dancing is a reward?
Yeah. Dancing is a reward.
It is. Kevin Bacon made a movie about this. Like,
I have literally seen an image on Twitter of Dan Lanning on John Lithgow's body from Footloose. So that is what we're going for here. So, what do you? I wanted to get your thoughts on this, because keep in mind this is a game which we had 10 penalties at this point, probably 12 penalties going into the fourth quarter. He has, for whatever reason, the score was easily on the Duck side. He tells those Ducks, no dancing. Do you like this move? A lot of fans do not like it. What do you think, Aaron?
Who gives a shit? One, I totally get what he's doing. He's creating a group mind think. You have to realize at some level there is brainwashing happening so that you can have a large group of people cohesively work as a singular unit. So I understand he is trying to probably keep a mindset intact throughout an entirety of the game for it. So players can't do it, period. I would just say we're done with that tradition as a player. Totally. It's not a reward thing. It's gone now. But the fans can do it as hard and heavy as they want, because, hey, that's why the team is making money, is because those people are showing up.
I kind of agree with you here, because here's my thoughts, right? In my head, when I think of this tradition, I'm really thinking of Troy Dye dancing out there. That was some of the most fun moments. That was like the peak of this tradition. Him out there. I also remember moments where we were like, just embarrassing games where it's like, why are we so close to Arizona right now? Or just like we're losing, or this is embarrassing. And sometimes it felt forced. Sometimes it really felt like why the fuck are y'all dancing out there right now? I'm sure you can go talk to some positions coach or something and get a little more information.
Yeah.
It also felt like even if we were up by a lot, sometimes it just felt like it was just like, so it's just every home game.
Look,
we're gonna have the players out there it felt a little weird, and I kind of get it's like, fans, you can dance. Why?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if the players should
Here's
be
the
dancing
deal.
every single game.
If you want to dance, go get me a touchdown. Otherwise, don't fucking dance. This is football.
and this is hard because I do I did love that die moment, the die moments and stuff, but like, if for the next 2 decades we're always dancing, like all the players are always dancing during shout, and we just get this huge reel of player, like, I don't know, it makes it a little less special to me. And I almost would rather be like what you're saying, no player dancing, true Footloose style, than doing it as a reward system.
No,
because then I'm imagining it's like, oh, we're having a perfect game. We're up by 21 points entering the fourth quarter. It's been flawless. Come on, everybody, let's dance. And then a disastrous fourth quarter though, and then we lose. Like, I don't know. I kind of get. It's kind of like, this is what went through my head.
Well,
imagine you're working at some kind of like a restaurant or something like that, and there's fun little traditions where it's like, oh, well, there's this cute thing where it's like one time the manager went and grabbed a fry from a meal before and so we thought it was funny, and now we're always doing that. And then like a year down the line, suddenly you got people eating handfuls of fries off people's food or something like that. Like these little things unchecked, eventually I think can become a little bit of a problem.
Yeah,
and I'm
think
just like
forced. If something doesn't feel spontaneous, if it instead feels forced, or that you're shackled to do it because of tradition and not because it's something that you want to do, then like, I can see your point. I don't really, hey man, did you really get, doer no fun Mario Cristobal? Did you get the feeling that he was forcing kids to dance?
No.
I feel like governing, other people's dancing is always wrong. If I can't dance, I don't want to be part of your revolution.
Here's what I would do.
But having said all that, if Lanning bans dancing right up until the Washington game, the last home game of the year, I believe,
that's good.
Or second to last, and then Oregon's kicking Washington's butt, and he's like, okay, now you can dance. Like, that place is gonna explode. Like,
can we talk about the headline, Dan Lanning bans dancing?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm surprised I got that one out with that tripping over my tongue.
Yeah, I love that it happened. Like, that's a good sign when you're playing against Stanford, and one of the main things you're talking about afterwards is like, they didn't let them dance during the shout. Like, that's a good sign.
If there has to be a caveat to allow player dancing, if there has to be that, because let's remember, I am pro, just kill the dancing. It's fucking stupid. Two, what I would say the caveat would be kind of what happened in this last game is that at the beginning of the fourth quarter, our backups were coming in. So if you're done playing the game and backups are coming in, that's when the song should be played. It doesn't matter the time. It's like,
doesn't that seem weird though?
In the game, we're playing this song because our big boys are coming off and we're saying great game.
That seems like cocky as fuck to be like, oh,
that's how you want to have it. Welcome to the game of football, dude. It's literally the cockiest game out there.
Ducks have never blown a lead before. Time to play the win music while time's on the clock. No way. I don't like it. Okay.
They play the fight sound when they score a touchdown, even if they're behind and have been playing poorly. Like you do not need an excuse to dance or sing or play music. Like constraining expressions of joy is always wrong. Like, this is an absurd thing.
But as a now paid professional playing the game of football as my employee, I would want to make sure your mind is focused on your job and not on, your TikTok cut that's going to show up from your booty shake that you did on the 50.
I mean, I
line.
guess. I mean, this is the purpose of a coach, is to establish, systems
Exactly.
of discipline. And like, it's wrong for me to force anybody else to run stadium stairs, but I like it when the coach does it, as a disciplinary measure. Yes, fine. I'm just saying, like, the idea that like, what this discussion sort of links into is something that always gets my back up, which is that like the team's winning or losing or whatever, and they cut shots to the sideline and a kid is laughing or something, or like, or he's losing a game and he's crying, and like you get a bunch of like couch warriors get up on Twitter and it's just like this kid's emotional expression is like, I want to see him look mad when they're down, and I want to like, what a softie for crying. And it's just like, emotionally regulating 19-year-olds is not your job. It's barely Dan Lanning's job. Like the idea that this is something that's worthy of discussion has these overtones that are extraordinarily paternalistic and gross. Like, kids should play a game and have fun. Like, that's what football is.
So you're pro dancing, no matter what the coach says. You still think dancing is on.
You think they should defy his orders?
If they made a movie about Dan Lanning banning dancing and then the players danced anyway, I would go to that movie 3 times.
And they finished season 6 and 6.
Look,
I don't care. I got to dance. That can be the name of the movie.
Yeah. I 100%
dancing their way to the Independence
from the
Bowl.
mindset of a person who is just like, who gives a shit if you win or lose the game? It's literally a game.
As long as you dance.
Yeah, like there shouldn't be anything. Me personally, you shouldn't actually be overly serious about any one thing, because as soon as it starts going wrong, it's pointless. It's futile.
Right, well,
I do think there's something to be said to that, like,
at the same
psychological
time,
management model of like, if you're catastrophizing giving up a touchdown, like, what are you going to do the next time you're on defense?
Yeah, my thing is, I wouldn't give a shit enough to be like, do or do not dance unless I noticed it was affecting the player's performance. And then I would probably figure out my own personal way.
I would say spin the
it.
safety down, against a look in which it's obvious he's going to throw that out pattern. Like, I don't think anything had anything to do with it. I would like Lupoy or Powledge or Lanning or whoever was calling the defense on that play to call a better defensive play call, and taking it out on the players doesn't seem very appropriate.
Sure. But point being, he's the coach. I am not.
Sounds
Fucking
good.
Get rid of it. Destroy
Sounds
it.
good. I'm glad he is, and I'm glad you're not. Okay, we got to get to the next segment here, which is,
that was great.
Of course,
Bottom 11.
Bottom 11. That's right. The Ducks are on the top, which means all these other Pac-12 teams are the bottom 11. Now, we got our choices here. Aaron, you sent in your choices, and I'll let you know right now, we went exactly the same way. You chose all the favorites, and I chose all the favorites too. There was but that being said, we were wrong on one. I'll tell you that much. We were both wrong on one.
Interesting.
So let's get into it. USC versus Oregon State. That's not what happened. I'm on the wrong week. There we go. Washington at UCLA. This game, the final score was 40-32. Do not be fooled, because this game was not even that close. Like, they were down by like 24 points. They scored 2 touchdowns, got two 2-point conversions to get it within an 8-point game at the end. Wow. UCLA just really took it to them right off the bat. I mean, like, even in the opening kickoff, Washington had to do a slide kick to take down the dude so he didn't score right up. And DTR had, one of the best games of his career. A very DTR game, but good chaos, I'd say.
Didn't
and Chip
I pick
Kelly.
Washington?
I think both of us picked Wazoo. So I think actually both of us got this wrong. I think we got 2 wrong this week.
Oh, I assumed you would have picked
I remember
UCLA.
thinking about this game that like both of these teams haven't played anybody, and
Yeah.
that like UCLA looked shakier in their garbage opponents than Washington looked shakier in their garbage opponents. But that's not really good data. Like this outcome could really be anything. Yeah,
it was I don't know. It was a good showing from UCLA, who still has like a lot of problems, but like they're like a malfunctioning gun.
I think both of these teams are really sort of like incomplete. Like they have some parts that are scary and other parts that are real bad. And the whole game was sort of like punch drunk. Like nobody ran. There was like no like 6-yard runs in this game. Like there was no like, a 12-yard, out pattern or something like that. It was either like you're getting sacked or you're throwing a 40-yard bomb, is like,
or you're throwing an interception, but then breaking up the pass. That was one of my favorite
defense.
plays.
Both of the defense in this game would alternate between like absolutely destroying the opponent and absolutely getting destroyed. And it's like, can you guys play like a normal football game the way that like 2 good teams would play? And apparently the answer was no. Like,
apparently the answer is no. UCLA is just there's so many little things that they do not do right, but it seems like they've got enough talent and with Chip Kelly's mind that like offensively they can get some stuff done and then shoot themselves in the foot, but then break off a big play and then go backwards.
Well, yeah, like their offense is is like that. Their defense is not great, but like USC's, like they would generate turnovers. Like they got Penix to throw 2 turnovers in this game, which is really ultimately the margin of difference. Like these teams looked almost exactly the same, except Washington threw 2 picks. Because like DTR is, I think, probably a better quarterback than Michael Penix. But otherwise, like, neither of these teams have a very good secondary, and so both quarterbacks were just throwing whatever passes that they wanted. Neither of these teams have a particularly good offensive line, and so they were constantly having to dodge pressure. Neither of them could really effectively run the ball, and they basically gave up running the ball. I mean, I know that Charbonnet had 124, yards or whatever, but like a lot of that came on a single play. Like, yeah, they're really sort of incomplete teams, and this is the type of game that you get when 2 incomplete teams that are sort of incomplete in the same ways go up against each other.
Yeah, it was fun to watch. I was glad that it was on a Friday so I could fully focus on it because it was pretty nuts.
That's true.
So UCLA coming up. UCLA, I've had a pit in my feeling the last couple of times we've played them. I mean, a couple of times we've played them, it's been pretty close, down to the like final drive. And I'm always afraid that DTR is gonna he's gonna sneak one win in before he leaves. I think he's beaten us before. He's been there forever, but whatever. Then so we both got that wrong. We both went with the Huskies.
That's fine.
That's our fault. We shouldn't have done that.
No, I decided I'm going to support them.
Okay,
look, I'm for the Pacific Northwest this season specifically. Washington State, Beavers.
Yeah. Well,
the Northwest does look like the best pod in the country, or the best pod in the conference, I should say.
Yep.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
And bravo to the Huskies, because for real, it seemed like last season for them was a bummer.
They lost to Montana.
People in Seattle are happy again. So it's like, okay.
But if you make like a Pacific Northwest pod, a California pod with, the LA schools and the Bay Area schools, and then the Four Corners pod, like each of the other 2 pods have like a real dud in it. Like Stanford's a real dud. Cal may or may not be,
Colorado.
Like Colorado for the Four Corners, like Arizona State, but Pac-12, like, yeah, it's looking like all 4 of those teams at least, do something pretty well. Like, yeah,
absolutely. So USC, Arizona State was the next one.
Oh,
we both chose USC. USC's a big favorite. They're number 6 in the country. Okay. They went against ASU, who Herm Edwards has been fired. He is gone.
What?
On the field, they fired him. Yeah, we didn't talk about this last week. You weren't here. He got his ass fired, dude.
Bravo. It's a long
we didn't talk about this either. Carl Durrell, Colorado's coach, he also got fired. Just so you know, left and right.
We're 5 weeks in, and there are 5 Power 5 firings so far, and 2 in the Pac-12.
That's right. Because then we got, what was it? Wisconsin,
Georgia Tech,
and Nebraska. That's right. Our old friend Scott Frost.
He got fired like on the field on camera, or like
I think on.
It kind of looks camera. Like it. It kind of looks like both of his bosses like are firing him on the field, or at least saying like, "We need to come to my office for a talk." You know,
the obvious.
Oh my God. The principal came and pulled you out of class.
That's exactly what happened.
You're
exactly
in trouble.
So that team, who is coached by, like, as of right now, an ex-high school football coach, he's trying to win the job. I hope he does. So USC versus Arizona State at USC, and it was 42-25, but it was a game because Caleb Williams threw his first pick. It was kind of an ugly one, and I believe there was an onside kick and such, and I don't know, like ASU made this more competitive than you would think against the number 6 team. USC has got a whole lot of talent. They are flawed. Their offensive line is still a problem. Their defense may still be a problem against the better team. Certainly if they were to make the playoffs, it would just be open season, I would imagine. But USC does get the win. They are, as of right now, the power of this conference because they're undefeated. I mean, so is UCLA, though, and like, I don't know. I'm excited. USC versus UCLA, that's going to be a game, and I definitely wouldn't assume USC would run away with it. Anyways, we both chose USC, and we both got that right. I did not watch much of this game because I had Sling. That's how I'm watching my stuff mainly. Yeah. And for this Saturday, they took ESPN off Sling because of a debate between, I believe it's like, I don't know, I guess Disney and the cable companies. Yeah, they were like, they're like, we think you owe us $1 billion.
Yeah, no,
actually.
This is the beginning of the this is why all the Pac-12 will be completely blown up to bits, is because we now have 2 lords. Yeah, just like something else that happens in America where there's 2 sides.
Oh boy, Aaron's getting political.
They seem to really be good at telling us A or B, and we have to pick one.
Yeah,
Disney's A.
USC, ASU. There you go. That was that game. I don't know.
I mean, USC's looked vulnerable in 2 straight weeks. Like, they were a better team than Arizona State, clearly, but like, you know, they weren't that much better. And Arizona's like a headless horseman. You know, like what? Yeah. You know that they lost a bunch of their talent. Like USC's talent advantage over ASU is pretty big at this point. They definitely should have a coaching advantage. They were playing at home, you know, in Memorial Coliseum. Like, this should not have been a 10-point game with, like, you know, 3 minutes left in the game. Like, you know, that's, you know, USC's looked vulnerable. Like, I don't know if I don't know what their schedule looks like. I don't know who's, you know, going to challenge them, but the idea that they're going to make it through, like, they don't play Oregon. So, you know, the first time I have to do real film study on them will be if both of these teams make to the conference championship game. So beats me, but like, you know, like, yeah, they've looked vulnerable.
I think they play Wazoo next week. Is that right? I think so. I'll pull it up in a second. I mean, that's a game. That's a game there. Wazoo is hungry.
Oh, yeah. They've got Wazoo this Saturday in LA, and then they've got Utah at Utah the week after that. So, like, yeah, that's appointment viewing.
If they get through both of those, then I'll very much start talking about, yes, USC is. I mean, already it is impressive what Lincoln Riley has done there. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's just year 1, ranked number 6. People talking as if they're a shoo-in for like the playoff.
I don't know who's talking like that. Like, you know, I think he's a more competent coach than Clay Helton. Like, he's not choking away games that Helton, you know, choked away. You know, like Oregon State definitely would have won if Clay Helton were still coaching. Yeah. But like, you know, that defense still stinks. Like it's and I think arguably Grinch has made it worse. You know, like they're getting turnovers, like a freaky amount of turnovers. And it's like, and it's actually going to produce a real split in the advanced stats community between people who run play based systems and people who run drive based systems, because their defensive drive efficiency looks great. Oh, they never give up points because they always get turnovers in the red zone. But the play-based efficiency, people are going to be like, they gave up 10 bad plays before they gave up the interception, like, or they got the interception. So like, yeah, there's going to be some disputing among nerds on that question.
I agree. Utah took on Oregon State. Utah now number 12. Yes, this was an unfortunate beatdown, 42-16. Because
did you watch this game?
I did watch this. Chance Nolan got injured. That hurt quite a bit. 3 interceptions from Clark Phillips III. Lived up to his name there. That really told the story. But otherwise, like, Oregon State's defense was keeping them in this game.
Yeah, Utah wasn't really moving the ball on Oregon State's defense, until like the third quarter or so.
Cam Rising's legs did a lot of it, which is like saying something. And like, how do you feel about? Did you watch this whole game, Hith?
Yeah.
How do you feel about Utah's offense so far, Keithyless?
I think it's pretty clear that that Andy Ludwig wants to have 3 effective tight ends. I think that's going to be a problem down the line.
Andy Ludwig would love our offense. Oh my God.
Oregon's got 4 tight ends, man. Like, I would not, God rest his soul, Spencer Webb's passing, I really thought was going to be like, oh, this is, going to be a real danger for the team that wants to use multiple tight ends, because I don't know if McCormick and Herbert are going to be healthy, and it turns out actually both of them are, and they're playing very well. And Oregon has 4 effective tight ends, and Spencer Webb was going to wear number 4, and everybody's got a 4 decal on the back of their helmet. This feels like the cosmos is speaking.
Absolutely. Yeah. So sorry, Beeves, that Chance got hurt. That did suck. Not that it looked like Chance was going to win you that game, but it was a more competitive game than you'd think.
I mean, Utah didn't really pull away from Oregon State until late, in that game. And that was, when they were down their quarterback. And frankly, I don't really think much of Chance Nolan as a quarterback. Like, if it wasn't for the fact that they have maybe the best cornerback in the Pac-12 and Clark Phillips, like, I don't know, this game might be different. Now, whenever there's a game with a bunch of turnovers like that, and then you're like, oh, well, the winning team's offensive numbers don't look that great. Like, you have to be like, well, remember, that, when you're scoring pick sixes, like, your offense doesn't get the ball. They hand it right back, to the opponent. So like, don't make that argument. It's not a good one, but like, nonetheless, there's a lot of punts in this game, from Utah.
Yeah. Let's continue here. Stanford, Oregon, blah, blah, blah. Oregon, we both chose Oregon. Cal at Washington State. No. Is that right? Am I crazy? Yes. Cal at Washington State. This ended up being 28-9 win for Wazoo, even though both of us chose Cal.
Oh,
I know. I really thought this was the tough one. This was the actual best game going in. Well, UCLA, Washington, Washington was the favorite there, but Cal Washington State, for those in the know, we're thinking, this could be a little interesting. Wazoo's defense, which has showed up every week, showed up in this big. Cam Ward did enough, had a couple really good passes. Seems like he is like handling this offense pretty well. Like, I think he is a little limited. He's not like the best QB in the Pac-12. Seems like his deep ball isn't quite there. I don't know. Okay. But yeah, I mean, I like this Wazoo team. They're fun to root for. Like, they got a little more than like Oregon State. Like, you kind of feels the same rooting for Oregon State or Wazoo. This feels a little better though. Feels like they got a more complete team.
He's a Hollywood quarterback.
Cam Ward.
He makes moments. You know what I mean?
That's true.
I mean, there's a bunch of those in the Pac-12. I hate them. Like, there's Ward and Delora.
Jaden Delora, yeah.
And Dorian Thompson-Robinson, like guys who are like, I'm a scrambly boy. Like, I can't have the shit in the pocket, but like, woo, I'm a greased pig and I, run out.
Yeah.
over there,
Whoa.
and now I'm going to throw
Yeah.
over there, and I never
It's
get picked off except for all the times that I do get picked off. But
Yeah,
not
yeah,
Oregon, because for some reason it doesn't happen against Oregon. Yeah.
It's like, do you see that 20-yard run I just did? It's like, yeah, but then you turned it over.
The reason that it's frustrating is that it's one of the things that, like, when I, a film reviewer, and I'm like marking all these, runs and things down to scrambles and being like, look at all these pocket collapses. Like, this is a ominous sign for the future. And everybody who just looks at box scores is just like, oh, it says here on this sheet of paper that I'm reading, which is my only way of interfacing with this game, that like he threw a bunch of passes. Therefore, their offensive line must be great. And there's a bunch of quarterback runs. Oh, what a great spread option, read option, offense. Like, no, that's none of those things are correct. You dumbwit. Like, yeah, sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, I am not actually mad at scramblers. Like, fine, whatever. Like, it's legal. Or, it's not like anybody's cheating, by scrambling. It's just like it creates a distorted picture for everybody who just looks at. I'm really just mad at people who only look at box scores, and I shake my fist at them.
Yeah, no, I get it. Especially the QBs that are like, okay, got my first read, time to scramble. When it's like, well, look at that guy over there running down the field. And it's like, you picked up 6 with your legs that took a minute of time, but then, yeah. No, I get what
I think this game was much more about Cal and a referendum on Cal's quality, because like they sort of throttled Arizona. But now having done film study on that Arizona Cal game the previous week, like, no, Cal's like, both of those are deeply flawed teams, but Cal's even Arizona has a really super bad rush defense, like worse than Stanford rush defense, and Cal, got a bunch of like free touchdowns on the basis of that. But Cal has this massive hole in the middle of their zone coverage. Like, it's crazy. Like, I put out a tweet of it where there's 6 different plays where Delora just hits, just automatic 15 to 30 yard passes. Because like Cal, like they have a bunch of defenders that are like 5 yards deep, and then they have a bunch of defenders who are like 30 yards deep, and then right in the middle of the field, like if you look at it like, just like Neapolitan ice cream, like this stretch and this stretch and this stretch, you know what I mean? Like the vanilla in the middle is like there's no dudes there, and you can throw whatever you want to the vanilla part of the field. Like,
every once in a while, I feel like a team would benefit from like an Aaron Schroeder coming in, not overthinking it or thinking it much at all, and just like looking at a whiteboard and just being like, well, no one's here, and circling, just like, how about we throw here? Sometimes you need that dude,
Well, I mean, that's what, and that's why they, Wazoo throttled them, is like their entire offense is designed to throw to the vanilla part of the field and the Neapolitan ice cream of Cal's zone defense. Like, boy, that's a metaphor. If only this podcast were illustrated. Yeah, it's just like, I saw that one as soon as I don't think I had done film study on that Arizona Cal game until after I was on the podcast last week, but had I done so, I would have been ringing the bell for Wazoo real loud.
Well, then last one here, that same Arizona team that lost to Cal, they destroyed Colorado 43-20. I didn't watch a single second of this game.
I got to watch this game today. That's my lunchtime project.
Have fun. This is the game that got Carl Durrell fired. Arizona. We both chose Arizona because they're no longer on your shit list.
That's right. They're back, baby.
They're back. Now, Aaron, time for the final segment of this show, the most beloved.
Have you informed Aaron of the name of Colorado's human in a costume mascot?
Oh, Ralphie, right? No, Chip. Oh, Chip. That's
what do you think about that, Aaron?
You're anti-Chip.
For it.
You're anti-Chip, though.
I'm anti-potato chip.
Which is Chip Kelly.
There you go.
But not anti-Buffalo Chip?
Not chips in general.
No, because that really, you're talking about Buffalo hot wings at that point. And so
I guess.
if you were
I think the reference is
you
using...
would just call fries that come with the Buffalo hot wings chips. Therefore, I will allow it.
Okay. I really don't think that's what the reference is. I think it's the use of...
No. That is it.
This is like the transmental...
things as a fuel source. I've actually been in lodges that were heated by burning buffalo chips. That it's not.
Yeah, that's shit, isn't it? Buffalo chip. Yeah. Why did they name him Chip? Just because it's funny?
I guess. But
like they knew that, right? That Buffalo Chip would be shit.
Have you seen the video of Chip the Buffalo firing a t-shirt cannon into his groin?
Yeah, it's funny.
It's first of all, actually, it's wrong to say firing. It's not like he's got it like he's holding it upside down and he misfires it. It's the device explodes in his hand.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Back half of these. Yeah, if you watch the video closely, like it's a I don't know, faulty device or something, but the compressed air explodes in his hand and fires the entire back half of the assembly into his groin. And so then he's rolling around on the field, and the trainers come out to look at him, and I'm like, ooh, they're really leaning into this bit, but then they get the stretcher out and take him off the field, and I'm like, oh, this isn't a bit. Like, this is bad. Yeah,
that is such a bummer.
It made me feel real bad at laughing at him.
But how can you not?
Well, yes, exactly. I mean, like, it's objectively hilarious.
It's funny. Okay. Let's get into the final segment here. The picks. As of right now, I have a lead, 34-29, a 5-point lead.
Did you pick all of those teams the same as me after you got mine and you just decided to stay ahead?
No, I didn't do it because of that. I went it because they were all the favorites. That being said, we're going to force you this time to actually pick first. You gotta. Don't.
Yeah, I want to pick first.
No, wait, no. I need to pick first. That's what I meant.
Yeah, I know. You need to because the rules say that, but I actually prefer it when I get it.
But it doesn't. I could win. Literally, I could win the whole season by just picking what you pick.
That's on you, though. I can't control the way you decide to play the game.
All right.
You have to be the better person and not do that.
I don't know why you're adding this.
It's about understanding your evil and choosing to do the good thing.
I think if there's something that the last several years of our political history has taught us is that assuming that your opponent will abide by norms and moral behavior is not a good way of constituting the rules.
Exactly, and I'm a staunch Republican, so this is really good.
I'm just saying.
No, I'm not.
What I choose to do is believe that the better human inside you, the better of the two wolves, if you will.
You are the better of me, though, Aaron. When will you see that? Okay, you're going to pick first.
To play fair.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, you're trying to.
You go first. You go first.
Okay, so after all that, you're just going to make me go first. Okay.
I mean, if I can't trust you and we're all in agreement that you are not to be trusted, then you should go first.
Okay, well, then I'll go first. Number 11, Utah versus number 18, UCLA. This has got Game of the Week written all over it in my eyes. I mean, yeah, this has got to be it. Wazoo versus USC is pretty big, but Utah versus UCLA, this should be very competitive. Both teams, I mean, every team is flawed in the Pac-12. Just about every team is flawed, period. But Utah versus UCLA, dang, this is tough. If UCLA wins this one, the hype will get very serious around them, which usually means it'll fall right after this. Damn, this is tough. I'm going to say UCLA. I like the way DTR is playing right now. He's one of them scrambly-ass quarterbacks right now. He's going to have a bad game. I think UCLA is going to win, though. I think UCLA is going to win this.
Well, this one's an easy first pick for me, Adam, because as we just discussed, I do not eat potato chips. I do not trust potato chips. I do not like potato chips. I'm going with Utah.
I feel you don't like potato chips?
Yeah, you don't like potato chips?
No. They're the beginning of the downslide into Western society.
I mean, I understand that what they represent is bad, but like in your mouth, they're delicious.
Yeah, and that's the fucking problem with potato chip Kelly.
Okay.
You just hit it on the head.
Well, there you go. How you can argue with that?
It tastes delicious, but he's terrible for you.
Hitler, if you had to guess on this one, who do you think's winning this?
Oh boy, I
know,
really
right?
Don't know.
I'm excited for this.
Utah's better at home than they are on the road, but UCLA doesn't really ever bring a huge, road or home advantage.
Yeah.
Both of these quarterbacks are real scramblers, which, means that you sort of like kind of throw their record, you throw their books out the window, because that's a high variance strategy. I haven't really gotten, I don't really have good eyes on Utah, so I have an information asymmetry here. Like there's a bunch of things about UCLA that I appreciate, but there's a bunch of things that I'm really low on. On the other hand, Utah's kind of a black hole for me. I'm not real comfortable picking this game. I don't really know.
Yeah. No, it is really.
I'll tell you, Utah all day long.
Utah's negative 4.5 favorite. So there you go, 4.5.
Get me to Vegas because I'm about to become a millionaire.
Okay. Then we got Washington, number 21, Washington at Arizona State. My man, this is what's the betting line here? Okay, Washington 14-point favorite. This is one where I'm like, do I just go with the Pac-12 thing to do? Is you're like, they're going to the fucking desert and they're 2 touchdown favorites. Of course Washington is going to lose this game. Of course. Because ASU, everyone thinks they're dead in the water, but it's like, I don't know, players like playing football. They may go out there and still see if they got a chance and win this thing. But if I'm being smart.
Yeah.
ASU, I want so badly to choose ASU.
Do it.
But we're doing straight up picks here. I got to go with Washington. I think they're the better team. ASU's got... I just don't... I think...
I mean, it would be hilarious.
Wouldn't it? Yeah, it'd be bad for the Pac-12. Like, we want Washington to be better. But Washington's going to win this.
Yeah, it's Huskies all day long.
You going with the Huskies too?
Yeah.
I think if I had to bet on the actual line, I would totally take ASU. I think ASU will keep within 14 points.
I think it'll be like a 10-point game.
Yeah. I would feel more confident about that. But I think ASU's too broken right now, and Washington will be motivated, and DeBoer's a good coach. Yeah, I don't know. I think they'll be ready for it. You think there's going to be any desert magic in this one, If?
Oh, yes, me. I mean, there'll probably be some screwy stuff that Washington fans will hyperventilate over, and say, see, the desert. It's the desert's fault. And then they'll win by 24 points. Because use a headless horseman, like I said.
Yeah, ASU just ain't it. Come on, Emory Jones, prove us wrong. Then we got Wazoo at number 6 USC. Big upset watch here. Still unranked Wazoo. Come on, guys. I'm straight up. I'm gonna go with my heart here, but also with something that I think could totally happen. I think Wazoo's gonna win this game, even in USC, even in the Coliseum. Yeah, I think Wazoo's gonna go down there. They're gonna cause a lot of trouble for Caleb Williams. I really think that. And then it just requires Caleb Williams not having the best of days, which maybe he won't. Maybe Wazoo will win.
I definitely think that Wazoo's defensive line could give USC some real USC's offensive line, which is bad. Like Oregon State was running wild against USC's offensive line, and Wazoo has a much scarier defensive line than Oregon State does.
I think it's about Cam Ward. Can Cam Ward play pretty much mistake-free football and get a few big plays, enough big plays to steal a win, and I'm hoping he does. I'm going with Cam. Aaron, who are you going with?
Washington
favorite?
State.
No, you're going with Wazoo? Okay.
I am. I'm a Pacific Northwest ride or die, baby.
That's right. Well, then, in that case, Oregon versus Arizona. You got Oregon at Arizona.
Oregon.
Obviously, we're both going Oregon. Oregon. Or is gone. Yeah, I mean, that should be a blowout. It's just like against the week before the Stanford game where I was saying, we're going to lose to Stanford. We're going to lose to Stanford. That's how I feel against Arizona. We're going to lose to Arizona, but my mind is no, we're not going to lose to Arizona. Just like I didn't think we're going to actually lose to Stanford. Final game, Oregon State at Stanford. Stanford obviously coming off a bad loss. So is Oregon State. I don't know about Chance Nolan. I don't know how he's doing, if he'll be back for this game or not. That plays a pretty big part. Stanford's only won one game against Colgate. I'm going to look up Chance Nolan right now, see if there's any. Chance Nolan has been decision to come near the end, so we're not sure. Dang, this is actually really hard. I'm going to go... We did see a pretty bad Stanford team there. being at home is going to mean nothing. Shit, this is the hardest one to pick by far.
Really?
I think so. I think so. I'm going to go, because I like Jonathan Smith more than David Shaw, I'm going to go with Oregon State.
Ditto, Oregon stock.
Of course you're going with them, yeah. Do you agree with me that this is the hardest game to pick, Hithliday?
Oh, no, Utah UCLA is much harder to pick.
Yeah,
Right.
no, that is a very competitive. Who do you think's going to win this one, though?
I mean, Oregon State should win. Stanford's terrible, but keep in mind, Stanford has won I think 13 of the last 14. Oregon State finally got them last year, but I don't know. This is another information asymmetry game, where my brain is full of Stanford facts, and I've watched no seconds of Oregon State tape, so those are tricky for me. Stanford's, obviously has a huge problem defending the run. Oregon State is usually a very good running team, but this year it's kind of been suspect, weirdly. The quarterback being out, I don't know how that affects things, because really stepping down from Chance Nolan is not a big step down. That's
True.
really just Jonathan Smith really cleverly designs the offense. And if Chance Nolan is out and Jonathan Smith knows that he's out, well, time for Jonathan Smith cleverness. He's got a week to plan for that. Oregon State should win this game. I guess I'd put it that way. If Stanford wins, it'll be like David Shaw. You'll see that David Shaw cat who caught the canary, grin, and we'll all be very mad.
Yep, I think that's going to happen, actually. I'm going to change it. I'm changing it, Aaron. I'm going to Stanford.
What?
Are you really?
You just said that's against the rules. You can't pick after Aaron does.
Oh, that's true. That's true, because you made your pick.
If you're going to change that...
Will you allow me? Will you allow me to change my pick, Aaron?
Only if you change your pick to ASU.
Wait, what?
Ooh,
I was talking
parlay.
Stanford.
I enjoy it.
So you want me...
You have to because you want ASU to beat the Huskies, really,
Yeah,
is what
yeah.
you want.
You know what? Fuck it, Aaron. I'll take it.
All right. Now we're playing games.
I don't know how you work that, but I'll do it. I'm going to look like a
You
genius.
just got rope-a-dope, dude.
Nah, I feel it. I got Stanford. They're going to win.
I love it, baby.
All right. Well, there you go. Was that a brilliant play by Aaron? We'll find out next week.
Tune in next week for more.
All right. Well, thanks again, Hithliday, for joining us. On Twitter, you can find Hithliday at Hithliday, the number 1, HYTHLODAY, the number 1. And go over to Addicted to Quack to read and watch his duck dives, because it does not get any better than that if you're looking to learn about the ducks.
Well, it does, but you're already here. So
you're already
about the
here,
better place.
so second best would be over
Second best.
there. Because you don't get to hear Hithladay's voice. That's really the key thing here.
Yeah.
These beautiful sultry tones on this podcast. You can find us at Quack-12 Podcast on Twitter. Also, if you want to really help us out, you can either go to Apple Podcasts, give us 5 stars. You can go to Spotify, give us 5 stars. You can also, if you really want to help us out, give us $5 by going over to the Quack-12 Patreon, which you can get to by going to quack12podcast.com. Thank you so much, everybody. It's always so fun. We got a big game now. Well, hopefully it's not a big game. Hopefully it's a breeze.
Every next
Tucson.
game is the biggest game of your life.
No joke.
Oregon has not won in Tucson since 2011.
Since 2011, we haven't won down there.
Now, of course,
God
what that really
damn.
just means is 2 losses because they haven't played there very often. But
But it sounds more dramatic when you say it that way.
That's true. It does.
It's been a decade. Absolutely. But we're going to win this week. Unless I just jinxed us. Then we're not going to win. All right. See y'all next week. Quack, quack.
Quack, quack.
Bye, y'all.